¿Qué tal? Muy buenos días tengan todas y todos ustedes. Pues estamos llegando al tercer día de nuestras jornadas dentro del segundo triple encuentro internacional histórico de derecho ambiental, un evento que está albergando a tres grandes eventos de referencia ambientalista a nivel internacional, que es el 13º Foro Internacional de Derecho Ambiental que se transmite desde Buenos Aires, el 19 Encuentro Internacional de Derecho Ambiental, que en este año virtualmente la sede es en Perú, en la ciudad de Piura, y nuestra segunda coplada, que es el Congreso Planetario de Derecho Ambiental, quien ha sido desde su primera edición coordinado por la doctora Carrie Gerard. Pues es un honor el que hoy nos acompañe el doctor Cambiz Fatei, quien es un ingeniero civil muy reconocido y conocido como científico, es profesor de la Universidad de Irán y también, como les digo, dentro de este reconocimiento científico que tiene nuestro querido invitado y amigo, eh, es también reconocido por todos sus aportes en Kurdistán y en Persia y en muchos países más, también en Alemania, en Estados Unidos, ha estado colaborando con la NASA. Él ha recibido, entre muchas cosas, ya la doctora Carrie les leerá una semblanza curricular de nuestro querido invitado. Ha sido galardonado con el premio al mejor científico de la Universidad de Kurdistán. Ha colaborado en un proyecto muy importante con la NASA y con los científicos alemanes sobre los reportes de las partículas de los coloidales, que es algo también muy interesante, muy novedoso y que va a futuro a traer grandes enseñanzas sobre todo y que nos alerta a tener mejores formas, mejores prácticas, pero sobre todo lo que a él lo distingue no solamente es su gran calidad científica, sino su gran calidad humana como hombre de ciencia, que aquí está el ejemplo, siempre dispuesto a compartir con todas y con todos para poder tener un mundo mejor y sobre todo tener una sociedad más empática, más colaboradora y sobre todo más consciente de la situación que se vive hoy día a nivel mundial por tantos temas, entre ellos el cambio climático. Pues es un honor, mi querido Cambiz, el que nos estés acompañando, nos regales estos minutos de tu muy valioso tiempo y sobre todo que hayas empatado tu agenda con estos cambios de horario para que puedas llegar a todo Iberoamérica. Te agradezco mucho con el corazón en la mano. Somos tus amigos, somos las mujeres de la liga también amigas tuyas y pues solamente eso, apoyar y expresarte nuestra solidaridad en todos tus proyectos, en todos tus emprendimientos. Es un honor, muchas gracias y bienvenido. Carrie, si gustas, por favor, tomar la moderación de la mesa. Estamos a tus órdenes. Buenos días a todas y a todos y gracias por seguirnos en nuestros canales de Facebook Live y de YouTube. Gracias.
Muchísimas gracias, presidente de la Liga Mundial de Abogados Ambientalistas. Muchas gracias, doctora Quirino Vázquez. Es un honor que esté con nosotros en esta mesa, participando con nosotros y hablándonos a nosotros sobre lo importante de qué es lo que estamos haciendo en estos congresos que tenemos académicos unidos de la FIDA, EIDA y Coplada. Esta modalidad es en el idioma inglés, como siempre digo, sus aplicaciones de Facebook y YouTube. Por favor, aprieten su botón de traducción al idioma español y comenzaremos con la mesa que se llama La crisis climática, las partidas coloidales y sus soluciones. Welcome everybody to this third day of Friday, October 8th of the year 2021. Yes, correct. The second encounter of the triple encounter, historical encounter for environmental law from FIDA, the International Forum of Environmental Law, EIDA, the Encounter International Forum of Environmental Law, and COPLADA, the Planetary Congress of Environmental Law. This first table of this third day of this challenge academic congress that we're having a great guest speaker. He is from Iran, yes, Iran, the University of Iran, and he is a recognized scientist and inventor. His name is Mohammad Kambis Fatehi. Hello, Mr. Mohammad. How are you, doctor?
Hello, thank you. Okay, thank you very much for your program. Thank you. I'm at your service.
It's an honor to have you with us. Thank you for saying yes for this. Thank you for letting us learn from you. Thank you for letting us learn from your invention and all the things that you did. And thank you for being such a wonderful human being and so humble.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm at your service. I am very happy and nice to meet you, you and Mr. President. I'm at your service. Yeah, please. Yeah, please. Thank you.
I will introduce you to the audience, okay?
Yeah.
Mohammad Kambis Fatehi. He was born on August 3rd, 1969 in Sanandaj, one of the cities of Iranian Kurdistan. He has a degree in civil engineering from the University of Kurdistan in Iran. He has 30 years of experience and scientific research, which have spent about 24 years in the water and sewerage company, have held many managerial and controlling positions, was the director of Sanandaj Drinking Water Treatment Plant Control Center for 8 years, has also been in charge of the civil engineering governmental projects as an expert in water and wastewater studies. He has been in charge of the scientific department of the Green Kurdistan Environment Association in Sanandaj for 2 years. Has also done a lot of research in various environmental fields that result in having 6 strategic inventions. All his inventions are for the protection of the environment and human health in the world. The invention of a new method for solving the problem of dust storms, and the invention of a new method for the production of clean energy using the scientific formula of physics that he has mentioned. The invention of a new method for solving dust storms has been officially registered for the first time in Iran and also, fortunately, in Germany in full. He has patented that solution for the climate crisis. This invention is the result of 30 years of round-the-clock research as a result of theoretical and field research in critical powder beds, powdery wetlands that have hidden colloidal and hazardous particles in their sand layers. The purpose of this invention, in addition to solving the basic part of the catastrophic practical catastrophe that is the main problem of the world, is to prove the theory of the global natural suffocation cycle, which unfortunately very few scientists in the world have this specialized knowledge. According to the previous research, he has been able to study and analyze for the first time a large part of the behavioral properties of colloidal particles in the atmosphere. These dangerous particles have been able to maintain their repulsive and interparticle gravitational forces in the water, dry to the environment, and finally transferred to the atmosphere. Due to these behavioral characteristics, in addition to their hydroprophobic and hydrophilic properties, due to human negligence, they have been able to increase their density in the atmosphere. This dangerous increase in colloidal density has caused the world to face the onslaught of the initial suffocation cycle. And in the current situation, unfortunately, the world has reached the stage of completing the initial cycle. The only thing that surprises to this Mr. Mohammad, is that the scientists and managers of global organizations, without knowing the behavioral properties of these particles and the effects of change and climate change and global warming. In other words, his inventions have the changes in the world's environment that they need, including droughts and the drying up of trees, forest fires, and even devastating floods. These inventions were in the NASA and in the Kurdistan and in the Iran and in the Germany, all patented. He has clearly and fully explained all these catastrophic environmental conditions in National Geographic, in the Middle East, and the world. And all the evidence is available. The result of this research and invention is the answer to a global question in hydroelectric science for which no convincing scientific answers has been found for more than 150 years. The application for registration of this patent has been registered in Germany for the number with his matricle. The result of this research is the first priority in stating that the Earth is right now in alert. The best and simplest reasons to prove of this research are the results of the NASA research centers that he was in as centers of buying and selling air purification filters in all countries, because they will add to this global warming. They do not speak for the cause of this catastrophe, and in fact, they have no plan to stabilize dangerous powder and colloidal critical centers. This is the biggest catastrophe on Earth for Mr. Mohammad, so that in the near future, it will lead to the extinction of all the living things on Earth. Thank you so much, Doctor, for being here. It's an honor to have you here, really. I don't know if the world knows how many dust storms the countries like Iran, Iraq, Turkey, Kurdistan, and all the Arab languages and all the languages of there, the people there live by these dust storms. And we are not aware of that because we live in another area. We live in another area of the earth. So we don't know how this works, and we don't know how catastrophic they can be to human beings that are our brothers and sisters, because we are all the same, as I always say. So if you let me, I will, before you speaking, I will set the YouTube video for the dust storms for the 5 minutes, the first video you gave me, so people can know what is going on, okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Vamos a mostrar un video, si están escuchando en español, quiero decirles que vamos a mostrar un video sobre las tormentas de arena que ocurren en los países de Irán, de Irak, de Turquía, de Kurdistán y todos los que hablan la lengua árabe. O sea que nosotros no tenemos muchas indicaciones de qué es lo que pasa con el ambiente y la crisis climática en esos lugares. Aquí tenemos a este científico reconocido de la NASA, de National Geographic, de la Universidad de Alemania, de Kurdistán, de Irán, de Persia y de muchas más alrededor de todo ese pueblo tan bello en las áreas de Irán, Irak, Turquía, Kurdistán y Persia. Iremos a poner un video para que vean qué es lo que pasa en esas áreas. Tere, el primer video, por favor. De 5 minutos.
Let's do a small experiment. Would you rather drink this water or this water?
No lo escucho.
Well, of course you would choose the water on the left. Unfortunately, some people in other parts of the world have no choice at all. Did you know that small floating particles in drinking water can make you sick? Imagine we have a super powerful microscope and we can zoom into the water. Zoom! What will we find? What are these small floating particles and how do they float? These particles are of 2 types: inorganic, like clay, silt, and mineral oxides, and organic, such as algae, protozoa, and bacteria. The bacteria, once ingested by humans, can sometimes be fatal. All of these small particles are able to float because they are not heavy enough to settle to the bottom by gravity. Suspended particles that are too light and small to settle are called colloids. When looked at together, these colloids cause a state of cloudiness or haziness known as turbidity. The more cloudy a fluid looks, the more turbid it is. Here we see 4 beakers of water with increasing levels of turbidity from left to right. There is a relation between turbidity and the risk of getting a disease. Science shows that the more turbid the drinking water is, the higher the risk of getting sick is. Now, why is this? This is because toxic compounds can adsorb, that is, stick to, the surface of the suspended colloids. The more colloids there are, the more toxic the water can become. These toxic materials in bacteria can cause cholera, salmonellosis, hepatitis A, dysentery, and E. coli infection. These illnesses affect and kill millions of people a year and are especially dangerous to children whose weak immune systems cannot provide an adequate defense. Fortunately, we can do something about this. One of the very practical ways to clean this turbid water is called flocculation. Flocculation is the process in which colloids aggregate or come together to form larger particles called flocks by the addition of a chemical called a flocculant. Typical flocculants include alum and ferrix because they work well with high turbidity fluid mixtures. Now, let's demonstrate how flocculation works. First, we'll need to go out and collect some muddy water from the Charles River. Here are 2 beakers filled with the same amount of muddy Charles River water. On the left is our control, which will remain untouched, and on the right, we'll add 3 milliliters of prepared flocculant solution. Then we'll stir for 2 minutes and wait. Wow! What just happened? The colloids in the turbid water on the left may never settle, whereas with the addition of just a little bit of flocculant, the water on the right became clear. In order to make this water potable, it will require skimming and filtration and maybe some additional treatment. If you're wondering what's going on, let's explain how this flocculant business works. Almost all colloids have negatively charged surfaces. This means that positive ions, or charged particles in water, will attract to the colloid surface, forming a first layer. Recall how like poles of a magnet will repel, while opposite poles will attract. The same occurs with colloids in water. A diffuse layer, made up of a mix of positive and negative ions, will then surround the first, forming what is called a double layer. This double layer provides a repulsive force that prevents two colloids from sticking to each other. Once the flocculant is added, it adheres to the surfaces of the particles, compressing the double layer and allowing the colloids to stick to each other and form flocks. These flocks are now heavy enough to settle to the bottom by gravity. Given how effective flocculation is, many countries around the world use this method for cleaning their water supplies. Did you know that Singapore, for instance, produces drinking water from sewer water using a number of methods, including flocculation? As the global population increases and fresh water resources become more and more scarce, flocculation is one tool that can supply clean, healthy, and tasty drinking water worldwide.
How this works. It's incredible how the water, it's transparent. It's incredible how these colloidal particles and this focal cycle of suffocalation gives the solution to a lot of dirty in the water. Es increíble la solución de estas partículas coloidales que hacen que el agua sea transparente y que realmente sea tomable y sea potable para nosotros los humanos. How did you get to this? Can you explain us a little bit, please?
Yeah, thank you for video and your program. I think now in global, we can say that global warming, no, we are facing global suffocation, and the effect of the colloidal particles in the world now is a very, very dangerous, because this colloidal particle can go to atmosphere and the wetland now is dry. It will. I have to first. I have to introduce this problem. I would like to thank. I would like to thank here to the efforts of the scientists who wrote the article and sent them to IPCC, as well as the scientists of the IPCC. But I ask you to allow me to scientifically prove that these scientists didn't pay attention to the main issue and the main danger of the world environment. And this is a surprise to me. Of course, before that, I must say that there is no new discussion in this report, and this is clearly a complete scientific confusion that is not worthy of the world scientific community. I must also say that I have produced this before. In my option, giving the terminals important of the IPCC report to the world, it should be reanalyzed and its result should be worked on. I have done a lot of pathology in which I can refer to in a fourth program impossible. But for now, the main issue need to be addressed. But now I have to talk about the main problem of the world environment that has received less attention. The result of the 30-year theoretical and field research show that we are facing a crisis roads than the issue of climate change and global warming. We are facing a global natural suffocation cycle. In fact, only a small part of the factors mentioned in the result of the IPCC report are really related to this global natural suffocation cycle. To clarify this issue and the catastrophe that is currently happening in the world, I must refer to the science of water and water refinery. It should be said that the current environmental situation in the world, which is witnessing unusual drying and burning of the trees and melting of polar glaciers due to effects of global suffocation in effect of global suffocation fashion and contrary to scientists' consumption of fossil fuels and methane and even the destruction of trees are not major cause of global warming. If I want to give a clearly scientific explanation of global suffocation, I must to refer to the effect and behavioral characteristics of colloidal particle in dust storms caused by the drying up of millions of hectares of wetland and rivers due to the natural geological effect of the earth and or a war for water in the Middle East.
Mr. Muhammad, let me stop you there. I will say something to the audience. Mr. Muhammad speaks Persian language. He speaks Kurdish. That's why his English is reading, because he translated everything to be in this program. El señor Muhammad habla el idioma Kurdistán, habla el idioma Kurdish, habla el idioma persa, y el inglés es en su intermedio y ha traducido todo para estar en el programa con nosotros. Por eso están viendo que está leyendo su investigación en inglés, porque ha sido traducida para este programa con nosotros en este ingreso académico que tenemos. Así que muchísimas gracias por eso, doctor, lo seguimos escuchando. Yes, please, go on.
Yeah. I must refer to the behavior characteristics of colloidal particle to know where they originated from, the how technically many times throughout Earth's natural history it has been able to create the Earth and countless counts of catastrophe of. In fact, we are now in a phase of global suffocation that result in a worrying global warming. In the following, I will simply point out the point that we all pay attention to as to why the seemingly destructive effect of global warming are far less important than the catastrophic effects of global suffocation. For example, in global warming by a few degrees, we will see the melting of the polar Permian glacier and the sinking of several countries, or we will see the extension of several plant of animal in the world. But in global suffocation due to the increasing density of hydropic colloidal particles in the atmosphere that are not visible, most of the living thing on Earth, including human, may be extinct, making it very different of scientific to analyze scientifically. Colloidal particles are tiny micron-sized particles formed by natural agents in water that exist in all surface and groundwater in the world. In fact, whether they high or low in water can be a key factor in making water suitable for drinking. Now,
Mr. Muhammad, I will rephrase what you said. So these colloidal particles in the water, what they do, they absorb all the dirt that the water has, and this makes the water a clean water for us to drink and a clean water also for the oceans and the rivers. This suffocation cycle that you are talking about and this event that you just patented in Germany and in Iran is talking about that if we see as scientists and if we see as investigators and if we see as environmental law policies about this suffocation cycle, about these colloidal particles, we can solve a lot of climate crises around the world. Con estas partículas coloidales podemos tener una solución a la crisis ambiental en muchas partes del mundo.
Yeah, I think now in this situation, all of the science maybe only knows very simple about the colloidal particle, but it is important. This colloidal particle is it is very, very small. It is near nano, and can grow up in the atmosphere. Now, if we pay attention that these colloidal particles has a special electric energy between them, and they are stick with each other like aluminum foil aluminum around a potato, for example, our planet. Now, near the sun, when the sun, now we are the situation of suffocation in all of the people and animals and trees, and this is very, very dangerous. Of course, NASA has a special report about this important, but really we don't have the good science to introduce and to analyzing this problem in the environment, the problem of environment in the world.
Let me translate a second, okay? Estas partículas coloidales que el doctor está diciendo están cerca del Sol, lo que hace que con nuestro ciclo sofocal que tenemos en todo en la Tierra no puedan introducirse para poder limpiar todo lo que es el ambiente. Las partículas coloidales son como los átomos que están cerca una de la otra y son muy pequeñitas, en un diminuto tamaño. Yes.
Yeah. But a very important issue to pay attention to is the behavioral properties of colloidal particle, as well as the gravitational force of and repulsion between particles, which has received less attention in the scientific community, and no scientist has ever studied their behavioral properties in the atmosphere. Scientists must also design this distinction between sandstone and hydraulic colloidal particle when analyzing the Earth.
Yes, let me stop you there, Mr. Muhammad, so I can set the video for the sandstorms. Vamos a ver unos videos sobre las tormentas de arena que ocurren en estos países y en estas áreas que están viviendo estos pueblos que están realmente muy perdidos por estos movimientos de estas partículas que estamos hablando en este momento. Tere, ¿podemos poner 1 minuto o 2 minutos del video de las tormentas de arena, por favor? We're going to see the videos on the sandstorms.
Yeah, if we pay attention, for example, about the science of the physics, we have in the atmosphere, we have every time we are bombing with the teeny germ, for example, electron, proton, positron, and for example, these small things, give when stick with this colloidal particle and come back to it, is the situation of this colloidal particle will be different, and it is very dangerous for the people, for the mention, and it is important that the simple answer to prove the effect of colloidal particle on the Earth natural suffocation cycle is to review air pollution statistic by the World Environmental Organization. This means that as the entry of colloidal particle into the atmosphere throughout dust storm in the world, we observe that the temperature of the air in the world begin to rise suddenly. Also, as these particles increase in the atmosphere, which leads to the drying of trees in the world. We see that the amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere has increased, which indicates that the biological function of trees has a major problem. According to my calculation,
look at the video with the sandstorms that we are watching there.
According to my calculation and the result of my research, that the factor mentioned in the report of the IPCC are only a very small part of the current environmental disaster on Earth. In principle, it should be said that the effect of the behavioral properties of major colloidal particle in the atmosphere, along with the other factors mentioned in the report of the IPCC, have caused the natural suffocation of the Earth.
Yes, and we can see here in the video how there's no life in the land. We can see there how there's no life, there's no water, there's like a drought, right? You were mentioning about the sagros and the wetlands that they're totally drought, right?
Yeah, some of the country in the Middle East try to solving the dust storms, because this the problem of dust storm in the Middle East is a very danger for the people's health. And if you pay attention to the report of the Iran's environment, you can see that most of the trees and jungles will be dry and fire. I think with this for this problem, I can say that we have a new way for solving. We have a scientific solving for program to solving this problem, this global problem. I think that the IPCC have to pay attention, and because when this colloidal particle, when we let them to goes to atmosphere, really the living.
We can see there in the video todas las partes verdes son todas las tormentas de arena que se están consolidando. Those green layers there are all the sandstorms that are consolidating in all the areas that you can see in the land. So we are there. Ese es el partido de la NASA, el que está hablando ahora, uno del comité de la NASA, y esas partículas que estamos viendo alrededor de la Tierra están siempre en continuo ciclo para poder estar absorbiendo todo lo que es en el ambiente, pero no lo pueden hacer, y por eso son las tormentas de arena. Por eso las partículas coloidales tienen que ser muy importantes, y los científicos tienen que ver sobre las partículas coloidales. These colloidal particles over there, scientists have to have an alert of this suffocation cycle that you're saying, because this is like mainly an environmental crisis can be solved by this. I mean, they're so important. Todo el ciclo, all the cycles of collation, it's really important for the dust storms. Like we're going to see right now a lot of dust storms, and there's a lot of the agriculture there also, right? For the agriculture of the land. And the sagros, for example, what happened in the sagros?
For example, in Iran, they use from the mulch. This is a special material. They say that mulch, yeah, making from the oil and clay with each other, and this mulch is very dangerous for the environment, for the animals, after the 3 years and 4 years, the effect of this mulch can't have a good effect, and when they start the problem for environment, and after that, all of the people who living there, they are very sad from the Iran's government, environment of the Iran's government. That if you pay attention to the Iran's government in the 30 years ago, all of them.
Wow, look at that. Wow.
Yeah. When this sandstorm, this special sandstorm start, the weather will be dark, and it is very important that some of the science think that the sandstorm is like a dust storm, like a sandstorm. Of course, we have to pay attention. This colloidal particle is inside the dust storm and sandstorm, and they can grew up into the atmosphere, and grew up to the atmosphere and the high, they can stick with each other, and they have a special energy with each other. It is very important. I said you that science say that only speak about climate change and global warming, but the conclusion of my research is this: that climate change and global warming is effect of the global suffocation cycle. It is very important between climate change and global suffocation. It is very important. Now, our situation is very, very dangerous. For example, it is very, very simple for we know and we pay attention. For example, if we when the weather is good and sun, when we use from atmosphere, we sense that we can suffocation. It is very important when we are with this danger, with this bad situation. We have to pay attention that what is the situation of the trees and animals. It is very important. You can say that in the most of the country in one time, all of them did fire. Jungles was fire. This is the effect of the global suffocation cycle. It is important that I want to know that scientists pay attention to this important.
Let me translate just a minute, okay? Este ciclo, el doctor está hablando aquí de este ciclo de asfixia que genera el calentamiento global y el cambio climático. Tiene un centro intermediario entre estos dos ciclos de calentamiento global y el cambio climático. En este intermedio es el ciclo de asfixia que él está diciendo de las partículas coloidales. Si las partículas coloidales pudieran salir del centro de asfixia entre estos dos cambios que tenemos, pueden liberar sus partículas para limpiar el ambiente. This suffocation cycle that the scientist here is talking about, it says that there's a suffocation cycle between the climate change for one day, from one hand, and the other hand, the global warming. So in this middle of the suffocation cycle between the global warming here and the climate change here, this suffocation cycle here with the colloidal particles, they are here trying a cycle that they cannot leave. So if these colloidal particles can be spread by the climate change and global warming, we can have a clean environment. So this is one of the solutions that the scientist has researched for 30 years and says that their NASA reports and IPCC reports about everything but not the action of taking this suffocation cycle and colloidal particles into action. El científico nos está diciendo que si tuviéramos, aparte de los reportes del IPCC y los reportes de la NASA, en vez de la teoría, pasáramos a la práctica de este ciclo de asfixia, de este círculo de asfixia de las partículas coloidales y las podremos separar dentro del calentamiento global y el cambio climático, podríamos tener soluciones a limpiar la atmósfera desde el sol y todo lo que es la Tierra. Yes. Thank you so much. Mr. Muhammad, doctor, I mean, it's amazing your discovery, it's amazing your research, it's amazing what you showed us, and we are here for you, and we honor the public of and the audience of Iran. We audience, salam alaikum, salam alaikum, salam.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I think that I am ready to answer to all of the questions of the science in the world, and I think the conclusion of my research, I think it can help to the science. What can we do? It is very important. I am waiting to the answer of the question. I am waiting to the question of the science in this important. Thank you very much for your program.
Thank you so much. We are honored for your. Muchísimas gracias. Fue un honor tenerlo con nosotros.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. President, and your friend. Thank you very much. Have a good time. Thank you.
Muchas gracias al presidente de Lima, la Liga Mundial de Abogados Ambientalistas, y que siempre será su amigo, lo que necesite a su servicio. Que muchas gracias por el tiempo y todo lo que ha transmitido. Mr. Muhammad, you want to say something about your next invention?
Thank you. Yeah, and next invention is a new way for catching the clean energy in depth of the water. I have a new method and in 0 point of the opposite forces with using a new scientific formula in the science of the physics. Yeah.
Okay, and this will be like a different formula from the one that you had already?
now this invention is the Department of the Deutschland, Germany patent, and I'm waiting to have a contract with a company of the energy. I hope that I'm waiting to answer them to be in the contract. But it is important that this invention before in Kurdistan, in the University of the Kurdistan of the Iraq, have to prove and support, and it is important that in the Ministry of the Justice in the Kurdistan, it has the patent number. Yeah, we have the number, and now in the it is continue in the Department of the Deutschland in Germany patent. Yeah.
Okay, so la Suprema Corte de Justicia de Irán está analizando todo este invento y esta investigación que han hecho varios científicos en colaboración con la NASA para poder llevarlos a cabo y llevarlos a la acción. De hecho, es una de las investigaciones que está haciendo dentro de los tratados del IPCC y también de Naciones Unidas. Thank you so much for this. And your next invention will be like, apart from water clean, like you have another invention around you in your head, maybe?
Thank you. Yeah. I hope I forget sentences. Maybe you ask me what is this energy, this clean energy. And why another science couldn't reach to this method and this new clean energy formula. Only I can say that this is the answer of the hard global question in hydroelectric. And all of the scientists research to find this answer, and they couldn't answer. But with this, I could find an answer to this hard global question. Yeah, I could success answer. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good
day. Muchas gracias. Un honor.
Thank you.
Muchísimas gracias. Thank you for being here, sharing your time. Now we're having another oral guest speaker, incredible guest speaker, Mr. Michael Roman here with us, and he is going to speak about a Pacific island that we don't know, from Kiribati. Muchas gracias por seguir con nuestra transmisión. No se vayan, tenemos muchísimas mesas en el día de hoy para seguir con ustedes, compartiendo todo lo que sabemos para ustedes mismos y nosotros. En este momento tenemos una mesa en el idioma inglés y seguimos con la isla del Pacífico, Kiribati, y tenemos un invitado muy especial con nosotros. Welcome, Michael. How are you? Thank you for being here with us.
I am great. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for having me with all of you. It's an honor to be here.
It's my honor, Michael. I'm going to introduce you to the president of Lima, the Environmental Global Lawyers League, Mr. Dr. Aquilino Vázquez García, here with us. Doctor Michael.
Gracias. Michael, el honor es nuestro. Te agradecemos mucho el que nos estés acompañando y regalando estos minutos de tu tiempo, compartiéndonos todo ese, o algo de todo ese gran conocimiento que tú tienes. Y bueno, nos sentimos muy honrados. Sabemos y conocemos de tu trayectoria. Solo por mencionar algo, los 6 documentales que has elaborado para National Geographic y 2 para Amazon. Y pues bueno, el ser colaborador del gobierno de Estados Unidos no es cualquier cosa. Eres un gran referente. Te felicito y te agradezco que nos acompañes en este segundo triple encuentro histórico de derecho ambiental. Muchas gracias.
Michael, he says that he's an honor that you are here with us. He's an honor about all the American Assembly and all the documentals that you were around the world searching and doing for us, and everybody in the earth that know your work and everything you're doing in your work in the Kiribati people and all the volunteers that you're doing around the world. So it's an honor for us, for everything you do, to be here with us in this academic congress right now. So he said, thank you, it's an honor, and at your service from Lima, we are for you.
Mucho gusto y de nada, de nada. Okay.
Okay, so are you ready? I am so excited for this presentation. I'm going to introduce you, Michael, to the audience, okay, so they can know who you are. Okay. Mike Roman, former Kiribati Peace Corps volunteer, Fulbright Fellow, co-creator of the social media platform Humans of Kiribati, and creator of upcoming publications, American Asylee, and When There Was No Money, received his PhD from the Department of Anthropology of the University of Pittsburgh in 2014. His dissertation topic was turned into a 2018 Sundance Selection Annals Arc by Matthew Riggs. His most recent film collaboration, One Word, highlights the Marshall Islanders' fight for climate justice and survival, collaborating with governments, international media, nonprofit organizations, and citizens from around the world. He has spent the last 21 years raising global consciousness of the climate crisis from the front lines. He works right now at the University of Cincinnati. It's an honor, Michael. I am excited for everything we're going to present here and what we're going to speak, and the awareness and education of what we're going to speak here, because we don't even know where the island of Kiribati is. We don't even know anything about it. I mean, did you say Kiribati? And when I say Kiribati, they say like, Kiri what? I mean, that's the reaction, you know, we don't know what Kiribati is. So please tell me, how long have you been studying Kiribati and why did you choose this country?
Well, I've been working in the nation of Kiribati for 21 years now. And the presentation that I'll be sharing with you will kind of go into why I went there. It was not my choice. It was the US government that placed me there.
Okay, así que entonces, I'm going to translate. El gobierno de Estados Unidos lo ha movido hacia la isla de Kiribati para que él tenga esa opción de conocer la isla de Kiribati, y a partir de ese llamado del gobierno de Estados Unidos para hacer esa investigación en la isla de Kiribati, él se traslada a la isla Pacífica. So, yes, Michael, can you set the presentation?
Sure.
Yes. So we can do right there, we can speak there so they can see what we're talking about. Where's the Kiribati Island specifically?
It is in the middle of the world, where the international date line crosses the equator, and it is the first nation in the world to see the light of day, month, year, millennium, and it's the only nation in the world to be located in the northern, southern, eastern, and western hemisphere.
Wow. Okay.
So I'm not sure what you're seeing. Are you seeing the presentation?
Yes, I am seeing the presentation and the notes also.
Let's.
Yes, don't take your time. Don't worry. I am just so intrigued, you know, because like there are a lot of news around, like BBC, ABC, whatever you are talking about in countries and climate changes, but we cannot see news about the Kiribatis, like the Kiribati, you know, like those people over there, those population over there that they need us, and we need to help them, and we need to establish like what other climate changes threats and what other climate changes issues and crises. So yes, there we go with the presentation. Awesome.
I apologize about that.
It's okay.
Okay, so my presentation is humanizing climate change from the front lines. Sometimes I feel like a homeless person sitting on the street, begging for change, but money is not the change that I seek. Everyone who knows me knows I'm obsessed with magic, disappearing places, animals, and eventually, I fear, humans. Yet, as I continue telling our story of survival, few will ever stop to listen and think about why. Why what is happening is happening. They just keep walking by, pretending not to notice, determined not to realize the very real threat of an evolving ecological genocide. I get it though. We aren't big enough. We aren't important enough. We aren't the ones that the world cares about. But one day, I know we will be. Save the atolls, save the world. November 7th, 2000. I write home to my mom and dad from the nation of Kiribati. Dear mom and dad, it's so beautiful here, but scary too. I heard about this thing called global warming before I left home, and I just wondered if it's true. Being here sure makes it feel real to me, but I guess I trust the US government. They wouldn't send 27 Peace Corps volunteer trainees to this nation if they thought it was a real threat. I asked Mikhail, my language teacher, what he thought about global warming, and he assured me it was nothing serious. You know, Mike, he said, they say Kiribati would go under the ocean in the 1980s. But look, we're still here, so don't worry. God promised us that he would never flood the earth again. He made that promise to Noah. Well, with 9 years left to save humanity from climate change's worst impacts, as stated by the 2018 IPCC report, climate change has quickly become the greatest moral challenge of our generation. So when did we start talking about climate change? Well, it was actually 1989, November 16th. Barbara Girata, Kiribati Minister of Home Affairs and Decentralization, stood up and made this statement at the Small Island States Conference on Sea Level Rise in Malay Islands in the Maldives. He said that over centuries, the question of rise in sea level was never heard of. Our ancestors lived happily on our islands without fear that one day our beautiful homes may be lost as a result of a deteriorating environment. We in this present generation have inherited those small islands and are proud to be owners of the homes that we have established. If the sea levels were to rise, the groundwater would quickly become saline, making it impossible to obtain fresh water. Agriculture would be destroyed, and high tides would wash away our communities. 10 years later, I was a senior in college, 20 years old, 1999, dressed in my one and only suit. I'm 15 minutes early for my interview, and the secretary smiled at me and said, "It's okay. You can come with me to this room where the interview will take place and have a seat. Just wait here until Jeff, the Miami recruiter, comes to meet with you." The room was cold. I was uncomfortable and I was hungry. And after the 30-minute interview, Jeff asked if there was anything else that I would like to say before he left the room. I thought for a second and I said, "Yeah, just want you to know that I hate hot weather, I'm allergic to fish, and I'm severely prone to motion sickness, especially on boats. So please, no islands." A year later, I'm sent to the Republic of Kiribati as a trainee in the Central Pacific Island nation, where there is nothing but heat, fish, and boats. It was a mistake, I thought, but it turned out to be the best mistake in my life. You see, during my second week, I experienced something that I'll never forget. I was coming home from a celebration that night, and the winds picked up. The trees rocked back and forth, the seas roughened. The ocean grew larger and larger. Waves rose and crashed deep into the land. Water rushed in as if though its sole purpose were to flood and destroy everything. Land and sea were level with each other. Everything falling, everything blowing. To live or die, I sat and waited. The disaster that felt like forever passed before the sun rose, and at sunrise it emerged from our hiding spots. Some houses were missing walls, others were missing roofs. Fallen coconut trees laid upon mangled corrugated tin roofs. Men collected down foliage for women and girls who wove new thatch for the house roofs that needed to be repaired, and boys straddled the beams high above everyone to install them. You see, in collective fashion, the village worked to repair what had been destroyed. They didn't wait for relief services or workers from the United Nations or the Red Cross, Red Crescent Society. No, collective action to repair and recover together seemed nothing less than instinctive. That's when Mikhail pulled me aside and he said that the we is always bigger than the me in Kiribati. That is how we live. That is how we survive. That is how we have been here for thousands of years. Well, 20 months later, I returned to the United States, and over a 10-day period, I collected 80 pounds of toys, pencils, wedding supplies, spices, Kool-Aid mix, M&Ms, oh, lots of M&Ms for my friends and teachers back home in the islands. And when I returned, Air Kiribati's one and only airplane was broken. I would have to take a 2-week boat ride back to my site or early terminate from service altogether. I ran away from Peace Corps, which was not an easy thing to do on an island, and sought refuge with a family that I had become close with the previous year. If I had to leave, I wanted to do it without anyone noticing. I was ashamed. Over the past 21 years, that family has become my family too. Those friends are my friends today. Those children are now parents of their own children. Today, I speak up for them and all living on the front lines of climate change. On June 24th of 2002, my service to the country ended. But on that same day, my commitment to the nation began. Today, 5 dependent territories, atoll territories and nation states, the Marshall Islands, Kiribati, Tuvalu, Tokelau, and the Maldives, with more than 730,000 people, could be the first mass human casualties of climate change. But I'm not here to talk about the numbers or the science of climate change. I think that science is obviously needed and very powerful and very important for climate change. But when you run into the bottleneck, you run into the humanity. What the bottleneck is putting a human face on climate change, understanding it from a human perspective. That's what people ultimately respond to. And that's what I will share from our frontline truths. The first thing that you need to understand is the importance of land and the connection of land to indigenous people. Land in Kiribati, or Aba, is sacred. Aba has several meanings. It can mean land, it can mean people, it can mean country. And like a holy trinity, the cosmological link created by Aba, or the tie between land and people, past, present, and future, is so strong that many cannot see surviving without the other. When a child is born, that child is typically born on the family's land. He or she will typically grow up on that land. They will be old enough to start their families on that land. They will live out the rest of their lives on that land. And when the time comes, they will be buried in that land to join the ancestors above who protect it for future generations to come. In Kiribati, one's land and identity are inexplicitly intertwined with each other. The land is the people and the people are the land. When we talk about climate change, we must talk about ecological genocide and understand that that ecology includes humans, includes generations. An example, unwittingly, Kiribati has become a poster child for climate change. Most from Kiribati do not wish to become climate change refugees, a term that has yet to gain any legal foothold. What most want is to remain in their land that they've lived in for thousands of years. Itake Terua, 70 years old, on the left, had to move inland with his relatives after a recent king tide. When he passes the place where his old home used to be, It reminds him of the life that he built with his wife of 40 plus years. Emateta Rodake, 69 on the right, lost his house and all of his trees, but he refused to leave his land because his wife was buried there. He wanted to be buried with her.
Michael, we are having 30 minutes, but I am so concerned about what you are presenting here. And one of the things that I didn't know was that 730,000 endangered humans need us. So this presentation is so important to us, so important to us. So I will formally invite you to have a section with us exclusively for this topic, everybody, if you're okay with me.
Sure.
We'll invite you to the vision section of Lima, the Environmental Lawyers League, Global League, so you can speak 60 minutes about this with all the questions that we have, because we have 3 minutes and it's, I wanted to have a last phrase for the audience from what you are telling us that is so deep in my heart right now.
Okay, like a closing statement?
Yeah.
Am I optimistic? When I first started talking about this, I was the only one talking about it. Now there are children, there are adults, there are people worldwide talking about this. Am I optimistic? The United Nations human rights ruling created last year said no one seeking refuge can be sent back to a disappearing nation. Am I optimistic? I worked with and still am working with the US government, and climate change reports are being submitted to Biden and Harris administration. Am I optimistic? We have a Climate Displaced Persons Act in the Senate and House right now. Am I optimistic? I am, because if the climate can change, so can we. So must we.
Amen to that. Thank you so much. I formally invite you to the vision section of Lima so we can have a 60-minute hour of time with you. And everything you say is so rich. Every word that you say is so rich. So thank you so much for this presentation, this tiny presentation of what you are and what you have. I thank God for your life. Thank you for doing this. Thank you for blessing us with all of these words that we don't know. And we don't even know what these people are in danger for. So thank you so much, Michael. I am honored by this. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Doctor,
gracias, Michael.
Que lo esperamos
Sí.
en la visión de sección, de visión, para tener una entrevista.
Gracias, Michael. Eres muy amable y gracias por compartirnos todo tu trabajo y impulsarnos a reflexionar más sobre estos grandes temas y ver desde otra perspectiva muy práctica y que debería de ponerse en marcha con tantos estudios y tantos esfuerzos. Muchas gracias, Michael.
Thank you, Michael, for being here with us and all the presentation that you gave us. And we formally invite you for the 60 minutes, 1 hour program that we have in all the national speakers with everything here. Thank you so much for your time and thank you for your presentation. We invite you next time, maybe next Saturday, the last Saturday, to our section in Lima. Okay? Thank you so much. Doctor, María, el honor de cerrar esta mesa. Usted, por favor.
¿Perdón?
María, el honor de cerrar esta mesa.
Usted, claro, pues con un saludo muy afectuoso y el agradecimiento a nuestros dos participantes, tanto a Cambis como Michael, pues esta perspectiva tan interesante, pero sobre todo tan invitante a la reflexión, porque con muchos números y técnicos y pruebas técnicas podemos hacer muy palpable lo que tristemente es una realidad, pero también nos han dejado ver esa luz de esperanza que si impulsamos todos estos emprendimientos que ellos tienen y que están trabajando a tan altos niveles, pues yo creo que sí podemos aspirar a tener un mundo mejor, un mañana mejor para todas y todos hoy en este presente. Pues al contrario, Carrie, muchas gracias por, por siempre tu actividad tan, tan participativa, pero esa participación que haces con el corazón y que siempre estás impulsando y trayéndonos a grandes mujeres y grandes hombres que también llevan muy en el corazón un, una visión de cambio, una visión de poder ser mejores, porque se puede. La cuestión es querer hacerlo y sobre todo tener el sentimiento y la fuerza para lograrlo. Muchas gracias a ti por todo tu emprendimiento y por toda la fraternidad y cariño que le das a todas las compañeras y compañeros de la liga. Muchas gracias y pues los invitamos a seguirnos acompañando en este último día de nuestro segundo triple encuentro histórico de Derecho Ambiental. Gracias y seguimos adelante con la siguiente mesa. Muy amable. Gracias, Carrie. Un abrazo, saludos.